Hi, hello. Still waiting. Hello, hi, just hello. Hello, mine. Hello, Leo. Just check voice first. Oh, no. Need to check the voice first. Okay. Hi. I can't hear that yet. Oh, yep. It's coming out now. Yep, that's good. Okay, let's start. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Insights with Lily Zhang. Today is February the 6th. I think that's New Zealand's, is that National Day? Well, okay. Well, if it is, I think it's the Queen's birthday or something like that, or White Tangy Day. So happy White Tangy Day, my friends in New Zealand. And now it's European Central Time, 16:45. I probably, oh my God, a couple of minutes late. And American East Time, 10:45. So today I'm going to talk about, I think I'm going to more focus on my English speaking program because, well, if you don't know, I actually Chinese, my Chinese fans, if they are in mainland China, it's YouTube is forbidden. So I guess most of my Chinese speaking fans, they are overseas Chinese. They probably from Taiwan or Singapore or Canada. So most of them speak English. So I'll be more focused on my English speaking program. But next week I'm going to do a Chinese program for special occasions because next week is going to be Chinese New Year. Chinese, I think it's 12th of February. Oh my God, that's the Spring Festival. So this week I'm going to do just the English program, and I'm going to talk about is polarization the new norm? Polarization, polarity. And you probably hear that a lot since the American election. Polarized, that's a polarized society. And so far, we are so polarized, we can't agree with each other. So many people, we can't agree with each other from, Democrats and all Republicans. So we are more and more divided. But before I go anywhere, but I think even this pandemic, we're still in pandemic, middle of pandemic. So I really think it's just some. Today's program is all about some fruitful thoughts. I think I've been thinking, all my fans ask me, we are in this pandemic and this pandemic is ongoing. What is the word? What? So when can we go back to the old days, the old normal? I think we can't go back to the old normal. We are going to the new normal, new norm. And I think polarization, polarity is going to be a big character of this new norm. Before I go any further talking about how this new norm, how this polarization is going to be the new norm. I'm going to check out the definition of polarization. Yeah, I just Google it, and because polarization actually is a chemistry and physics definition, but we use it so much in social terms. Of course, we do have social polarization and economical polarization. And I, of course, today I'm not a scientist. That's why I'm going to talk more about the social and economical part of polarization, which is, I think, going to be the one of the biggest factor or character of the new norm, ongoing and post-pandemic. So before I start, that's what I'm going to talk about. You can Google this. What's the definition of polarization? Well, according to Google, physical, physical science, the polarization is the ability of waves to as associate in more than one direction, in particular polarization of light or particles responsible, for example, for the glare reducing effect of polarized sunglasses. Oh, that's physics. Polarization in electrochemistry, a change in the equilibrium potential of an electrochemical reaction. Concentration polarization, the shift of electrochemical potential difference across an electrochemical cell from its equilibrium value. Whoa, that's quite a lot. That's quite a lot of jargon anyway. But I understand actually the basic elements, atom or electrons, actually they are bound by polarity. So just different electrons, but just different opposite. Polarity basically means just divide and separate, or two extremes. And polarization is going to the two divided and going to the different directions. But because I'm going to that's actually the scientific definition actually, it's very interesting because we all form by we are all live in this electromagnetic field, and our earth, we have two poles, and we live in this electromagnetic field. So polarization actually is in nature, it's a fact of life. So, but in social and economical terms, that's what I'm going to talk about more on these terms. Very interesting. In economics, the polarization means an economic process where middle class jobs disappear more than those at the bottom and the top. Very interesting. Actually, that's what I'm going to talk more about that. I think the pandemic will just accelerate this trend also because of the technology advance. We'll probably think about AI and artificial intelligence and automation. So there will be quite a change in job market. And polarization in psychology, the process whereby a social or political group is divided into opposing subgroups. Wow. we already seen that. Just from social media platform, we can see that. And another very interesting, political polarization is the process by which the public opinion divides and goes to the extremes. So politically, economically, I think this trend, the polarization of this trend, is going to become more and more like the new norm. And back to now, what we're facing now, we are in the middle of pandemic. And this pandemic, even regarding this pandemic itself, the coronavirus, we have polarization of opinions. economically and politically and psychologically. Because we just see that's a fact. Some people believe it's a real virus. Some people believe that's man-made virus. Some people believe this is an agenda. Some people believe this is a new uh, world order. And this polarization is so obvious. Nobody can change each other's opinion, even just by this pandemic. This is a real pandemic. But there are quite a lot of people think this is maybe it's not a joke, but it's a political movement, or it's a new agenda for created by a small group of elites. Um, Regardless of those opinions, what I'm going to say is this pandemic is ongoing. Although we already have the vaccine, but so far, on the one hand we have vaccine, the other hand we have the new variations of the mutations of the virus. So the fight is ongoing. I'm in Germany, and we've been locked down for 3 months now, and this lockdown it's not going to be ended in very short time. So there are polarization opinions about this, even in Germany, in Europe, worldwide. So polarization is at the moment is a fact of life. We have polarization opinions of everything from politics to pandemic to lockdown policies, from to foreign policies and economics, globalization, nationalism, everything, or even our private life. Do we want marriage? Do we want committed relationship? Or do we want freedom? Because they are all polarity of issues. So I think at the moment we are not going to see the end of this pandemic, and this pandemic, many things going to change, and we cannot go back to the old world we are so familiar with. So be prepared. And I think all the changes going to this pandemic accelerate all the trends. Like before the pandemic, we already see the decline of retail industry, the decline of the increase trend of digitalization and automation. But this pandemic just accelerating everything. So now we're facing the new, many people call that a new world order. It is definitely because the old order actually doesn't really work very well. We have so many crises. We have crisis after one crisis. So the new order definitely is coming, but this pandemic just accelerating everything. So what is the new order? Many people are so worried, and there are so many conspiracy theories about the new order, about control power, and many people, in developed countries, they worry about they going back to communism or dictatorship. I'm not a guru. I'm not predicting future, but I can feel the polarization is going to be one of the biggest character of the new order. I'm just talking about that's why today I'm going to talk about more on politics and economic side. So also probably some of the psychological and private life, how are we going to prepare for this? So politically, we're already seeing from the 2020 American election, we can actually, I noticed this word, polarized, this word. It is from American election. So this word, we didn't use that before, but from the American election, we just read it on the newspaper every day, and we saw it every day, and we saw the result of the deep, big polarization caused the crash or the storm of the American Capitol on 1 month ago. That's 6th of January. Yes, so this polarization politically is so divided. It's I think the reason behind that is from last 20 or 30 years politically, because America's got a two-party system, and this system getting the division between people and parties and groups just getting bigger and bigger. So, like Democrats and Republicans, they used to have they used to like 1950s or 60s or even 70s. They had the common enemy. That's probably Russia or Cuba or China. And now the polarization politically is so big. The two parties, they just accuse each other like enemies. Especially, of course, Donald Trump's gone to the extreme. He just that's why he just pushed so much. Those conspiracy theories about Democrats, about those children, they global elite. They even just children or trafficking or connect their blood or torture them. I don't know why people believe those theories, but I think that's another symptoms of polarization. Just two political parties. They are not just different in policies. They're different in ideologically different, and their attitude are going to extremes, and they treat each other like enemies. That's why this new administration Biden, when he's first on I think on his first day, he just signed so many executive orders, just reverse almost most of Donald Trump's policies, from military, from foreign policies, and economic or pandemic relief policies. Almost everything, he just reversed that. So I think these the 2020 political, sorry, excuse me, the 2020 American election was the best example of political polarization. But this is, it's caused by two extremes, the left and the right, and this fight is ongoing. The reasons are too many. It's mainly it's their system, but I think it's not going to change much. The polarization going to enlarge because although Trump has gone, but Trumpism is still there. There's 75 million people, Americans supported, and also Republican Party. They have Trump has a very strong base, and I think next week probably his second impeachment. But because of this polarization, maybe I think the Republicans won't support too much about his second impeachment. So anyway, we'll see there. But politically, this polarization in America is going to be ongoing. In other part of the world, still we see extremists, left or right extremist. I think the issues concentrate on climate change or environment. In Europe, the Greens probably go too far left. Everything is about, I think on so many issues, the world are polarized, especially environment. So I think there's a survey says 78% of conservatives, they don't believe climate change, but on the similar level of liberals, they think climate change is the number one issue. So even on this climate change, this issue, so many people's views are polarized. But this is not going to change much. The post or ongoing pandemic era, the new norm of the world, I think this polarization is going to continue and even go further apart. how we solve this problem is not the topic I'm going to talk about today. I'll probably talk about later. I'm just talking about the major characters of the post-pandemic era, or my thinkings on that. On the other side, economically, I already read the definition of polarization. That's my biggest worry, actually. Politically, different countries going, America going that direction, Germany going this direction, maybe more lefty, maybe going more green or lefty side. But economically, that's my biggest concern because I already say read the polarization of on economically is the disappearing of middle class. There's more people, rich people, and a large amount of poor people. And the middle class, actually, the middle class, I think they are the foundations of democracy. Why this happen? Why this polarization economically? Because what are the reasons behind this economic polarization? I think two major reasons. Number one is technological advance, especially automation and AI, because that's going to be the trend. And as also bioengineering, all these technological advance, because as more and more jobs going, I think this is a new revolution technologically. This is a new revolution because we had agricultural revolution first and second, industrial revolution. Now and then we had the information. Maybe that's still ongoing information revolution. Now I think in the near future we really face the automation or AI revolution. I think previously those revolutions just big change dramatically in a couple of years. Many people from countryside go to city. That's the first like industrial revolution. Many farmers go into cities, and so many jobs, farming jobs disappear, and more factories or industrial jobs created. So that's very dramatic. But this automation and AI revolution, I think, is ongoing, and it's not going to happen in a couple of years, but it's going to happen dramatically every 3 to 5 years. And upgrade, it's just like a computer upgrading dramatically. So at the moment, we are starting the AI process or automation, and we're going to have self-drive cars and many jobs like digitalization. Going, especially this pandemic, we already see that. So many jobs will disappear. But this revolution, the biggest character is it's not just influence because from the industrial or the first previous revolutions, just the impact some industries, some forms of jobs, and also mainly on the physical side. But this AI revolution, let me call that AI revolution, it's going to be more impact on the middle class, on the higher and intellectual side, because this is the information revolution. Anything with processing information, AI can do it better than human beings. That's scary because my understanding of human being, actually, we are more like from quantum physics. I think human beings are more like information processing center, a process like a bio machine, more concentrated on processing information rather than our body, a biological body. Because I think our senses, our body is more like sensors system. But the real existence of human being actually is the information in our brain. Let's define who we are. It's simple. We can, if you lost an arm or leg, you can replace it. But if you lose your memory or your brain, you're going to lose your identity. You're not going to be you anymore. So this revolution, this AI revolution is going to, on the higher, it's more impact on the core of humanity, who we are. If AI can do so many high-end jobs like doctors, lawyers, but isn't lawyers, doctors, they just processing information. Like doctors and nurses. Nurses actually more on the physical side. They're going to look after the patient, and it's all caring side. But doctors basically they just check what your symptoms are and processing it according to his experience and give you some advice. It's more on the information side. And lawyers basically they just gather information, analyze information, and give you advice. That's all on the information side. So doctors, lawyers, we are so highly regarded this kind of profession. Actually, they are so much easier to be replaced by AI because AI can do much better than human beings on information processing. So, after saying this, I'll say if the jobs of doctors, lawyers, accountants are threatened by AI, so how many jobs out there are safe? Basically, as far as I can think of, is bankers, traders, drivers, teachers, lawyers, accountants, architects, doctors. Who else I can think of? Retail staff, anybody. Basically, most of the jobs we have now can be replaced by artificial intelligence. And those ones cannot be replaced by AI, probably just really working on those human touch. They need to touch the human beings, the caregivers, the babysitters, nurses, and people who look after elderlies, also philosophers, artists. So the humanity actually more rely on the true humanity. The ones, the real humanity not threatened by AI actually are the emotional, philosophical side, psychological side of human beings. Well, saying so much, that means I'm just talking about my thoughts on which industry, what are the industries or which professions actually are not so much threatened by artificial intelligence. That's why I see the danger of maybe with this artificial intelligence and technological advance, so many jobs or professions we consider, or so many middle class we consider, we take it just as granted. But those middle class have the biggest threat from artificial intelligence. That's why I think this is a fundamental cause of economical polarization. That means the disappear of middle class. According to, he's my favorite author, Yuval Noah Harari. He's the author of *Sapiens* and *Homo Deus*. He predicted in the near future, in 21st century, we might see a large group of people, millions or 100 millions of people, become useless class. That means it's not just unemployed, they are unemployable. Well, that's I think political polarization. I think we can work on that, but this economical polarization, I think that's probably the biggest threat of humanity. And this economical polarization is going to cause enlarge the social polarization. And the solution, I don't know. I'm not here to talk about the solution. I'm here to talk about the problem. Yeah, that's why I'm thinking of, this pandemic. If you think 2020, 2021 is difficult, it's just the beginning. It's not very optimistic, but let's face the reality. Well, that's why I'm talking about polarization. I think yeah, let's face this problem and this reality, and let's prepare for that. And the solutions I'm going to talk about, I'm going to think about that. But I think on the personal level, I can't do much about the political polarization. I can't, I mean, just on personal level, you can't change the trend. The AI technology will advance very fast. On the personal level, I think the only thing we can do, we have to force ourselves to reinvent ourselves, to keep learning. I think the most important skills, doesn't matter if you're a doctor or lawyer or accountant, whatever you do now, is adaptation, this kind of capacity. We have to adapt. We have to adapt to whatever comes forward. It's just like we can easily adapt to the pandemic situation. We've been locked down, we turn into digitalization, and we remote work, and the workforce is going to change, the work environment is going to change. So on the personal level, I think we have to adapt to whatever comes, and we have to be very flexible. And most importantly, we have to keep learning and keep reinvent ourselves psychologically, professionally, and mentally, physically, reinvent ourselves. Even on the in our private life, because of the also we private life, even polarization happens. I just think about it because polarization must be because we live on Earth. Earth is a polarized planet. I think that's probably the essence of our existence. Polarization, we just now we probably recognize that. And even in our private life, because of the digitalization and we are in this world full of choice. That's why our private life, even in this polarization environment, we have so many choice. And even our private life, we want marriage? If we have marriage, and can we stay there? And because we have so many choices, do we want freedom or do we want stability? Do we want safe, secure, or do we want excitement and adventures? And how can you keep the balance? How can you keep the balance of romantic side or the security side? That's the things that we all need to think about, even on our private life. So we have the threat from, we have the political threat, our government. Do we want a bigger government or a smaller government? And how can we combat these kind of global issues like pandemic, climate change, and economical international trade? Do we want nationalism? How do we keep our national identity, or do we want globalization? Do we want our main culture, or do we want multicultural? So on the personal level, on national level, international level, we have so many polarized issues. We need to keep making decision and making choice. Well, This is an ongoing issue, and I think this is going to be the new norm from 2020. So be prepared, be flexible, and that's my thinking on that. And I'm so welcoming you to just give me your thinking, thoughts, and advice on that. We can argue, yeah. But that's something I think we're going to be paying attention. It just recognize. I think most importantly, recognize the problem, the environment, the society, the future we are facing, and then you probably can develop a strategy going forward. Okay, that's my insights or thoughts today. And yeah, I already say next week is Chinese New Year, so I'm going to do a Chinese program, both in Chinese and English. Okay, that's my thoughts today. Thank you very much. I see you next time. Bye bye.